a vacation edition of Photo Critique from the Photo Recommendations Flickr group, 500 pics, and anywhere else you wanted to post pictures from, except Facebook, because we don't like how Facebook displays our pictures. What makes this a vacation edition? Absolutely nothing, except that I am on vacation, and actually because of travel arrangements, have lost my better half, Christina, and she is off someplace else. So you have just me today. Apologies, 1,000 apologies. We won't have Christina's expert opinion, but I'm going to do my best. I asked a few days ago for you all to post some pictures, and we're just going to run through them. And I'm going to do what I usually do, share my thoughts with you. We're going to jump right into this first one from Giuseppe. It's the Riga, the House of the Blackheads, with the St. Peter's Church in the background. He's got a video we can watch too about Riga. So there's some beautiful light here. The way these are lit up with these nice clean white lights, and the statues and the ornate detail around the edge, all of those are wonderful. What I'm not crazy about is the mixed lighting. This seems to be one of those places where you did a nice job of capturing the square and St. Peter's Church in the background, but it just intersects with the top. It's also leaning. I think you're using quite a wide angle, just 18 millimeters, which can be fairly wide. So we have that kind of leaning feeling back there, and that detracts a little. I think this is one of those places where you want to step up and say, what's really important for me to capture here? And the answer is probably these really beautiful House of the Blackhead facade, you call it, on the front of these buildings here lit up. And so that's what I think I would like to see a future image of, just those and captured. You could do a nice kind of wider panorama format to get both of them, but from a more direct look. As far as getting a sense of the scene, it's neat, but again, we have the distracting elements of the very mixed lighting, the bright reflections from here. I think you're using f10. Yep. So you start to get those starbursts fairly early on. And of course, the intersecting bit right there that I said. Overall, though, it looks like a beautiful place, and someplace in Latvia. Very nice. Thank you. Jeremy has one that's been cropped for Instagram. It's the Milky Way in Mountain View, Oklahoma. You waited for most of the night for the clouds to clear up, and I know how that is. It can be quite frustrating to take star photos, but you do have some really, you just start to get a glimpse. Those aren't clouds there, folks. That is a glimpse of the Milky Way stretching across this scene there, and that's pretty awesome. But we have a couple issues. One, that these lights down here do detract a lot. In Lightroom, you could really desaturate that stuff and bring it down to match the colors over here more. Now, that might not be as true to life, but I think it would do this image better. We also have this issue here, and I'm not sure how you could crop this out without starting to lose some of the Milky Way as well. But triangles really can draw the eye, and we have this solid triangle by these power lines and this tower right here around. Now, this tower is actually pretty cool. It doesn't look like your standard boring tower. It's got a little bit more life to it. And that might be neat in a future image to use as a silhouette against the sky. So if you have an opportunity to return to this location, to come a little closer over here and see if you can capture that, because that adds a little bit of an element, especially when your stars themselves maybe aren't as strong as they could be, because we do have the Milky Way, which is good, but then, you know, beyond that, there's not a lot going on. You also mentioned that you had the moon over here. It is amazing, folks, how little moonlight can overpower star images and really just make things look like daylight on a longer exposure. This was a 25-second long exposure, f2.8. Wow, you're using the Tokina 11-16, which is a great star image lens. And something that I recommended, that if people are really serious about trying to capture starry skies, that 10-18 is probably going to be more frustrating, and the Tokina 11-16 really excels there. Thank you, Jeremy. Ahmed has Doha boats, and I think this is kind of one of those neat views of the old world and the new world with that Sirius skyline in the background. Is that Abu Dhabi? No, am I making that up? Where the Burj? Okay, now I'm just, anyway. So, I like that, but we got a couple issues here. One is we seem to be crooked, and that can be really annoying to me and Christina. I'm channeling her here, when we're working with water, because water is horizontal unless we're talking about running water, and we definitely look like our left side is just a little bit lower than our right. So I'd like to see that straightened up just a bit. We also have it's just starting to get really busy over here in this section. These boats here and here. And so if possible, I wonder if this perspective could be shifted a little bit to the left, because it looks like these boats extend are further and further back, the ones in the middle ground there, I'm going to say, until they're quite far away over here. And so if you could shift your perspective, move to the left a little bit and shoot that way, again, putting this boat against those that are further back there or hiding it, that might be better. Another option here is to get a little bit lower, and that should make, well, one, that will use the hull of this boat to hide those others in the background, again, avoiding some of this messy intersection here. And also, that should bring up the skyscrapers in the background. So that's what I suggest. Otherwise, quite nice. A lot of sky here, and not terribly interesting. The water is a little bit more interesting because it's got a nice color to it, and it looks like there's a little bit of a potential for reflections here as well. So I might sacrifice, or I would suggest cutting off some sky and adding a little bit of water for a future shot. Thank you. And then you had a time lapse too. I'm on the world's worst internet though, so I'm not sure if we are going to be able to watch this. Nope, not loading. That's the other fun bit about the Vacation Edition, is my internet is terrible. Okay, Mac has Out of the Black. The staircase under Palazzo Borgia leads to St. Pietro in Vincoli Square. And he likes silhouettes. He's working with a Fuji XF 18 to 55. I like silhouettes a lot as well, and I think you've done a nice job. We have just enough light here to kind of see this neat stone, gives a really sense of the age of the tunnel they're coming out of. The same, and it works well with the building in the background, and I like that you have framed him completely within. He's a little bit taller, and you framed him completely within that space, and it looks like you got all of his foot. Maybe a tiny bit is cut off, so you could have backed up just a fraction, but that is kind of really a minor critique. Otherwise, I think this is really nice. It may be interesting to see this, this feels a little asymmetrical up here, and I think that actually adds to this. But I would also like to see a symmetrical version straight on, looking straight up. And in that case, you may have had more issues with intersection up there. But overall, I think this is a nice image. We could also have just a little bit more separation between the two of them here. But this sounds like, I'm going to guess this isn't friends of yours, just folks that were walking up the stairs. So you probably didn't have a second or two to get that shot off. But those are things to think about in the future with your silhouettes. Because we lose all definition, we certainly can tell that these are two people with two legs, two arms, but it's nice to really, when you lose all features and textures, to really kind of emphasize the outlines of a silhouette as well. Nice, Mac. Arturs has this cool, obviously photoshopped shot, and maybe you didn't notice right away, but there's no legs here. And so what I guess is one shot with this young man holding the frame in place. I'm going to guess this. Maybe we need 3 shots. One holding the frame in place, one holding the frame in place in a different location to be able to move the hands, or maybe the whole frame is photoshopped in, and one without anybody there to be able to erase the legs and the background. I think this is a really cool shot. I've seen other similar shots where photographers or artists bring a frame or a mirror onto a location out into the woods or someplace and can do some really unique things with it. And I think this is really nicely done. framed very nicely in here, a lot of symmetry that's working very well. We've got an intersection with the top of the bridge, just a tiny bit, and I think this could be a little bit stronger if we could see the bridge buttresses end right there. And so if we could see the top of those, that would be nice, but it's very minor. And overall, I think this is nice with some good texture, really nice depth of field that works well with good definition up front, and then we get slower in the background. Arters, let us know. I'd like to know exactly how you made this image, and you're using the 50mm lens. Thanks. And is that a self-portrait? I'm trying to look down here at your little profile picture. I wonder if that's a self-portrait. I think it might be. Nicely done. Robert has sunset or sunrise. And here we got another silhouette. This is a great image. We have this foreground, and with the detail in the grass, it gives us that sense of being really up close and exactly what it is this person's standing on. And then that distant mountain in the background, and of course this sharp silhouette right here. I think it's all good. Very nice. The only thing I might say is trade a little bit of the yellow for a little more orange. We're getting into, and this might have been more true to life, but to me it looks a little sickly, a little maybe excess of air pollution, and if you had brought in a little bit more orange, I think that would have really kind of made this, solidify this as a sunset silhouette in a really nice way. Still, even without that, I think it's a great shot, really nicely composed. I'm very grateful that they're over here kind of in the rule of thirds line, and not dead center. And it's great. Thank you, Robert. All right, come on now, trolls. This is a gorgeous shot, but I do have a couple of quick critiques, but let me share with you all what they said they did. Long exposure with a 10 stop in D-filter, so that's your sunglasses for your lens that allow you to shoot much longer exposures during the day. Get something like this, and you can see we've got some softening in the clouds, and of course this is what allows the water to be so smooth. All of the ripples have been blurred out because of movement. Edited with Color Efex Pro, Photoshop Lightroom. Added quite a bit of warmth and saturation to the sky, made the shadows a lot brighter, and enhanced the contrast afterwards. So I bet, straight out of the camera, this was almost silhouette-like here through this region. And so you brought those shadows up to give more detail, and that's excellent. I mean, this is a gorgeous location, and you have taken a beautiful photo. My only critique is we've got these colors up here, this kind of deeper purple, a maroon maybe, that doesn't feel too natural to me. Down in the water it works. The reflections work because I've seen colors like that reflected before, but straight out of the sky it's a little too much. I think I might tone that back just a touch. But really, overall, gorgeous. Where did you say where this is? Island in Lake Bled. I don't know where exactly that is. I'm going to look it up afterwards, though, because I want to put it on my bucket list. Gorgeous place. Thanks so much for sharing. Another 500 picture from Lucas, sunrise shining through the tree. Now, I have to say I have a little bit more of a soft spot for sunrises than sunsets because they're not as common. They might often look similar, but in this case, what we're getting is some really nice morning fog that we're just getting some hints of the trees out of. I wish there was a little bit more out here in this area. And let me channel Christina for a second, and I wonder if she would say, no, it's fine. We have just enough to give a hint of the land out there and no more, and that's good. Now I sound kind of like Gollum arguing with myself, but I do feel like I'd like to see. I wonder if there was a location. See, there's a little hint of something over here, maybe the farmhouse. But if we could have shifted a little bit, still keep this light behind the tree because that is nicely done. The rays coming through it are captured nicely. And to the right, just a little bit more. But overall, really nice. I think it's a great shot. Nicely done. Poland, the river behind my back, and that's why the fog appears here almost every morning. Nicely done. Ursula has shrimp boat after sunset. And then she has that in French, if you'd like to learn how to say shrimp boat after sun. So I'm just composing my thoughts here because I hadn't taken, oh, and it also just fully loaded too, so it's sharp now. This is neat. It's a busy photo, but it's very dark, obviously after sunset. It seems long after nightfall to me, or it's exposed just for the lights on the ship here. And I think I would be hard-pressed to tell what this was, Ursula, without your text description there. I definitely would be able to tell that it has something to do with fishing, but without any strong, clear bow or stern or any real boat shape, it becomes a little bit difficult. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you wanted somebody to look at this and say, oh, cool, look at that boat with all those nets, I don't think they're going to necessarily do that. But maybe I'm a dummy. And there's some really neat detail in here. So, but there's just so much going on. I'd either focus in and capture something like these ropes and nets and the way the nets are folded with the light on them, or back up a little bit more and capture just enough to say, hey, that's a boat. That's what I would say. And maybe brighten the shadows just a little bit so we can see a little bit more in this area down here. But this is very dark. Here's another dark triangle right here, which triangles catch our eye, as I mentioned in an earlier image. So you want to watch out for that. Thank you, Ursula. Now Cherry has staring off. I think this is another self-portrait here. Now this is post-processed and given some kind of glow. Oh, and look, we got a horse back here too, right? Nostril thing, ear. So that is similar to Ursula's in that we have this kind of a hint of a horse. The first time I looked at this earlier, I had no idea that it was horse, and I was just focused down here on you, which is fine. But I think we either want to be able to see more of the horse defined better, or get the horse out of there, because it's not about the horse, it's about you. The other thing we have going on here, and we could crop this, and so then I think we would have even less, well, you might, but we had a lot of extra space up above and to the left a little bit. Now, you are staring off to the left or to your right, so you do want to leave some room there in the direction you're looking. You don't want to crop in too close, but I would bring it down closer to your head there. And I'm not a fan of this post-processing technique. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are a few pictures I've seen where I've liked it, and we got this real glow up here intersecting into the back of the horse, and I think that's distracting. Plus this little bit of bump, and I think that might just actually be part of the horse that's lighter, so that's a little distracting as well. One other thing we need to do is come around a little bit, or you need to bring your head just forward a little bit more so we can see a little bit more of this eye. The way that you have this pupil, and this is getting very picky, and again, these are tips I've picked up from Christina and working with her and hearing her critique images. We need a little bit more of this pupil or we need a little bit of white on the other side of the pupil too, so we're not intersecting the brown or the color of your eye with the background. So we want to see more of that or less of that. So you could bring your chin further to your shoulder or further towards the camera. But right here, we're kind of in this in-between state, and it leaves this eye in a little bit of a less desirable place, but I'll say. Otherwise, though, I think this is nice. If you like this style, I think you've done a nice job with it. And I will say that the processing works well with your hair, except we're losing some details up here, but this kind of golden hue toning does work nice with your hair there. Thank you now, Cherry. Michael Ricci just got his Yongnuo 568 EX2. Congratulations. External flashes can change your life, folks, if you're serious about photography. They are awesome. And you have used a little bit of, you don't have any way to get it off your camera yet, so you had a little white piece of paper stapled to it. Paper stapled to it? Taped to it? One of those two, to balance the light, and that's great. Really nicely done. Again, I think it's my internet is just really slow in loading. So this picture is sharper when I looked at it before, and it will load more sharply here in a second, but nicely done. I think you could bring the dog in a little bit more this way and leave a little bit more room above his head or her head. But overall, I think you've done a nice job there. Let's try going forward one and backward one real quick to see if that will make it load up better. And I don't really have any critiques other than that, leaving a little bit of room and bringing the dog to the left a little bit. The lighting here is just about perfect, and some really nice separation between the dog and the background using that 40mm f2.8 lens. Nicely done. Very nice, Michael. Oh, Caroline. That's the dog, I bet. And she looks like a sweetie. A willing subject. Oh, and finally, as I finish talking about it, it loads up completely sharply and is great. Jonathan Hill. This is a neat shot. One of the things that's working very well in this shot, and Jonathan, I don't know if you planned this or not, but let's pretend you did, even if you didn't, is we have this V. We've got the bridge here leading that way with a shadow and the bridge itself, and we have the clouds over here and the reflection of the clouds. So we have this perspective point off in the distance that our eyes are drawn to, and as we get there, we get to see these neat repeating V's of light here on the bridge. We get to notice the colors in the water. So we're taking this trip through this photograph, and there we go, nice sharp image. And I think that works very well. I might just say that it would be also neat to come down just a little bit further, because there's a lot of sky up here that isn't doing a whole lot, and we got just this one little contrail or something up there. Come down a little bit more, capture just a little bit more of these kind of cool grasses, dried twigs and things silhouetted against the background, and a little bit more of the reflection here, and leave out a little bit more up there. But otherwise, very nice. Thank you, Jonathan. And you still haven't moved. You may disagree with us on that, but I'll repeat that this watermark is so close to the edge that I always feel like you might have cut something off. So I would give that just a tiny bit, tiniest bit. Well, no, not the tiniest bit, but the tiny bit of breathing room. We got Eduardo with Duck Dog, and I'm going to say you're calling it that because of the way he's scratching himself, or she. It's a female, isn't it, I think. Scratching herself at the moment. This is a cool shot, nicely exposed, always a little tricky. It looks like the duck is in full sun, so you're up at 1/1000th of a second, f4. Good detail, captured this moment. Not sure I could say much more about this other than it might be neat to see a little bit more context of where this duck is, I almost said dog, in the water. But, you know, that's not so important. And this blue here is absolutely gorgeous, really pretty amazing, and sharp relief. The lens we're using, 7200 f4. Very, very nice lens on the 60. Neat shot, captured very nicely. Thank you, Eduardo. Didn't we do one from Lucas already? I think we did, so we're going to skip over that. Another sunrise, very nice. Jim's got poolside. And there's a lot to like about this image here. A young girl enjoying some moments by the pool, a little bit of water. You can see she's recently been in the water, dripping. And we got this nice old brick texture here. That's very cool with a different kind of white spatter on it. I like that. All good. Let's see. What is detracting from this image from me, and this is tricky around pools, is she's looking down into the water and we're getting this very blue cast up on her face. It's not really hitting here so much because that is back a little bit from the water, and you can see a little bit on her knee here as well. That's something there's not a whole way to be able to deal with that unless you're using Lightroom, and then you can kind of tone down the blue in some areas. You can actually brush up here and say, any blue that's there, just brighten it a little bit, desaturate it a little bit, and so it'll take that blue color out, leaving the other colors in place. just something to watch for by the pool. It's amazing how much blue it can cast. Actually, on this little bit of a vacation with some birders, including myself, meaning excited to see new birds. And the other day we were in the pool and this bird flew over and we were like, indigo bunting? What is it? It was just the bluest bottomed bird as it flew over the pool. It was a gray mockingbird when it landed on the other side of the pool. No blue at all on it, but it was lit up by that pool water and the reflection. So watch that. We also got this little white tag up here that's detracting from me just a little bit. It catches my eye. That's pretty minor. Overall, this is nicely composed, a nice moment. Just like to watch out for that blue on the faces. Thanks, Jim. Morteza has Golden Fog. Beautiful shot. You know, it's always interesting or difficult to take an iconic shot like the Golden Gate Bridge and get something different. And I haven't ever seen a shot exactly like this before. I've seen some others, but the fog, the depth of field really works nicely here. And it's totally fine that it's not symmetrical. If some of you are worrying about that, because I thought for a few moments, do I want a perfect in the middle shot? No, I like that we're right here on this, and my eye follows this up very nicely and then comes back down the other and kind of takes in the whole scene. It's a great shot. I really like it. Thank you, Morteza. Cheryl has the back of the Museum of Natural History, which is quite an amazing museum. And I think there's some strength in this image in the way it is framed. If we've got this, you know, we've got the building here. We've got more of it over here, but what really stands out is this glass structure right here. And it is framed twice, both by these sunlit leaves in the foreground and then in the background by those leaves there. And that all works very well. It's nice. I'd like to see the shadows brought up a little bit more to bring in some detail in this area. And I think that it's a tiny bit crooked. I think the right-hand side needs to come down just a little bit, and I'm judging that by looking at these lines in the glass here. They seem to me to be leaning just a little bit left, and you took this ISO 100/160th of a second, f5.6. So, nice. Thank you, Cheryl. Nathan, this is another one that looks like we're going to have to wait for it to load. All right, this is a beautiful and amazing location. These crazy tall bamboos back here, and this bamboo fence in the foreground. I think this could benefit from a tighter capture of the old and the new. Something over in this area where it's just focused on. I do like this leaning curve around here. I'm torn. I'm conflicted as I look at this image. First thing that I am sure about is that I would like to see a little bit less of the out of focus. So we could start over here. It could even maybe start over here. And then it's a bummer that we had that one regular plain old tree sitting there, but yeah, that's okay. But I would also like to see a very kind of straight on shot of fence and brown fence, green bamboo in the background as an alternative. And this here, I know it's a path, it's there, but it adds nothing to this image. It's very much empty kind of space. And so we could bring this up a little bit and really just try to capture, I think more in this area here would make this image stronger. But as I was saying, I'd like to see another image over in this neighborhood, very tight. Great, this looks like a beautiful place, Nathan. I hope you can get back there because I'd love to see some more images from it. Thank you. JCB has bad weather taken with his Samyang 8mm fisheye, and then he processed it as a HDR in Photoshop manually and tried to get some straighter lines by using the warp tool in Photoshop. And I'd say you did an admirable job there. This is cool because we got some storm clouds, but the problem is that the storm seems straight ahead where all the busyness of this image is concentrated. And it would be nice if we had a little bit more. Don't you love how I wish everything was just a little bit different? But isn't that what you all post these images for? Except when I say things like, I wish the weather was over here. And so I wish there was a little bit more balance and everything wasn't concentrated in the center. And that's another thing that fisheye lenses can do, is really emphasize the center because they're capturing so much, and then the peripheral is just kind of left there. We also have just Another one of those triangles here. Is that technically a triangle? Not quite, but it's close to it. It's white and it very much catches the eye. I think over here too. I think we could crop this right across here. Don't you like how I move the mouse up a little bit? Right across there, because this little foreground area doesn't add anything to it. And then it'll be good. But then we also just kind of have this space here without a whole lot of information. But a lot of good detail in a very big dynamic range, I imagine, photo. So the HDR part there worked. And you did a nice job in that it doesn't look necessarily like an HDR. It just looks like you're able to capture a very good dynamic range. Those are the kind of HDR, high dynamic range images that I'm most appreciative of. And so you've done a nice job. Thank you, JCB. M. Cohen has a picture of a beautiful mountain. It's another one where, I don't know, do I have to wait for Facebook or Flickr to load it forever? But let's just start critiquing it. It's a beautiful image, a beautiful location. I was looking at it for a while before I realized that there's a little American flag sticking up here. And that's a little, not jarring is too strong a word, but it's a little like, what's under that American flag? And so I may have just popped that right out of there, and so that wasn't part of the image anymore. And finally, it's loaded up nice and crisp. Really good detail in this shot. Beautiful glaciers coming down through the nooks and crannies of this mountain in the background. It's interesting that you can tell that this has been logged. I'm being picky back here. So, you know, this stripe here of land, I might have come down a little bit to use these trees to hide and come up higher against this mountain here. But otherwise, you've done a nice shot, and as I said, trim out that little flag right there. Thank you, M. Cohen. Another mountain peak, this one equally as beautiful, really nice, much closer here, filling the frame, no foreground, just right up to this mountains. And so, good and bad, it's a little bit harder to tell the scale of these than the other one. That was very easy to tell. That flag actually helped that, but I think the trees did that well enough on their own that you didn't need the flag. But we do have the fact that there's basically clouds in front of and behind the mountain to give you some sense that this is piercing the sky. Really nice, really wide format. Was it stitched together? I would love to know. Or did you use the panorama feature? It's just a nice shot, and the sky is nicely exposed without any crazy differences in blue across. Always looking for that in panoramas where you might get some real big transition from dark sky to brighter sky, especially if you're using a circular polarizer. I may have brightened up these shadows just a touch, but otherwise beautiful. I'd be happy to have taken this picture and probably get a nice long print to hang on my wall. And I believe second to last image from Todd, splash. So these are cool shots. Todd, do you talk about how you take it all? No. I'd love to know a little bit more information about how you've taken this. I've tried doing it before. You need a lot of light. There's a couple different ways, but I think this is a neat capture, and the color lines in the background add to it in a nice way. If you don't have colored water or colored liquid, then I think using some kind of neat colors in the background add to it. I'd like to come down a little bit, the perspective down a little bit, so we're looking more across this ring, and we can also see that we're working with a really shallow depth of field here. The front of the ring is in sharp focus and the back is starting to get soft. f/16, the 40mm macro lens, but at f/16. I don't remember if that lens can close down anymore. Can it go to f/20, f/22? I would have liked to seen sharp ring all the way around. But overall, a nice, cool splash captured. Thank you, Todd. And now Luke finishes us up today with this black-footed cat. Beautiful cat. Looking or thinking back all the way to the now Cherry self-portrait where she was looking off to the right, we have almost a similar thing with a cat. We have a pupil intersecting with the nose here. And cats are very difficult subjects to work with. I know that. Not that I work with them professionally, but just trying to take pictures of my own. And if we come around just a tiny bit to get a little bit of separation of that pupil, or come back to the left more and not gotten that other eye, because that is a little funny there. The other thing we have an issue here with is white balance. Very yellow tone to this image. It needs to be much bluer to give it more of a, what I would call a cleaner feel. But beautiful cat, beautiful capture, really nice sharp focus here. Beautiful, really a beautiful cat. And a nice photo. Just watch those eyes for people and non-people subjects, and watch your white balance. General tip. And that was the end. We're done. Thanks so much for listening to just me talk about all of these photos. I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of them, agree or disagree with some of my critiquing. Please do so. And also please let me know how much you want Christina back. Not that that actually matters, but it'll make her happy. She will definitely be back for the next photo critique sometime soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.